Hello and welcome to Doubles and Trebles. This is our Grand Slam Best Bets video. We're going to be covering the first round of games or first round of group games. We're going to be covering some group winners and qualifier bets, an outright selection or two, and maybe even a special or three. We've got Pieman with us as usual. We've covered every single player got a mention in our earlier video this week. There'll be a link in that one in the description. And here we're not messing around. We're just picking out what we consider to be the best bets. Pieman, start Saturday. How much are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, really looking forward to it. As you touched on in the previous video, we talked about the field. It's split opinion with this qualification criteria and stuff, but let's have it right. I mean, we're less than 4 weeks away from the Worlds now, and it's just great to have all these players in attendance and live on Sky Sports. We can start to get a feel for who's in form and who's not, because we've got our inklings based on what we've seen on Players' Championship. But as we know, often that form might not carry through to the TV, but sometimes it might, and we might get a bit of value. And I think there are some value selections in this first slate of games that are played across Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening, which we're going to run through now.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of the first round robin games are priced up and available. We're going to be Pieman's going to be picking out the best value in those ties. We was kind of freestyling the other day, Pieman. I think it was Monday or Tuesday, and was looking through the groups and the odds. You've got the to win the group of 8 groups of 4, and then you had some prices for to qualify, which is to finish first or second. And kind of live, a bet developed that we both agreed on in terms of value that we thought in those group markets. So each player is going to play 3 games, and hopefully some of the players we picked out at decent enough prices in 4-runner races, let's remember. So yeah, just as a reminder of those, because I've had a good look today, Pieman, this afternoon, and looking ahead of this video, and I can't see much more than what we'd already picked out, so that's what I'm sticking with. The details of those are Group A, Alan Soutar. We think that he was going to go well, played well recently in the couple of Players' Championship events. He was going off at around 250 to 1 for those, and I think he made a quarter-final one day, maybe even a semi-final actually. So Alan Soutar in Group E is 8 to 1 to win the group and 2 to 1 to be in the top 2. We're backing both of them. We're looking at patents or trixes and stuff like that on the free selections. Group F, Jermaine Wattimena, similar comments apply. He missed 5 match starts to make a semi-final in the most recent Players' Championship event. He is usually unreliable, but he has genuinely been playing well recently, Jermaine. He's 9 to 1 to win Group F, 9 to 4 to be in the top 2. And finally, in Group H, the so-called group of death, if you like, Josh Rock, Luke Humphries, Ryan Searle and Scott Williams. The outsider of those 4, and be no surprise, is Scott Williams, who is 16 to 1 to win that group or 5 to 1 to be in the top 2. Scott's beat all sorts of big names this year. He's won a PDC Pro Tour event, and we think that he was overpriced at 16 to win the group, or more likely 5 to 1 to be in the top 2. So we're playing those up in patents and tricks, Pieman. That's the group betting kind of boxed off, if you ask me. In terms of the first round of ties, what stands out for you at this stage?
Yeah, well, I will just echo those comments on the groups. That they would be the 3 that stand out to me. The only other one that would potentially interest me would be maybe Mensur, Suljovic in Group B. However, I'm going to play Mensur in this straight win market, and that kicks us off with the match selections. I think anything odds against about Mensur to beat Simon Whitlock is value, just on the form of the last month or so. Simon, of course, is year peaked with the World Cup of Darts, winning that alongside Damon Heta, and he really was in inspired form at that period of the year. I made a few comments on the channel coming into it that under the radar, he was playing really well, Simon Whitlock. And alongside Damon, they were fantastic at the World Cup. I know Simon has always said in his career that the World Cup is a tournament he's felt he could win. And he felt he could still win it in the later realms of his year. And I know he was delighted to get in the Grand Slam when he won the World Cup. However, I don't know if he really believes he can win the Grand Slam of darts anymore. I think he would probably take getting through the group. He's been installed as a favourite here against Mensur, and then he's drifted a little bit, and I think that is right. It's coming towards the right price, but I would have actually had them 10 to 11 the pair for this game. Maybe Suljovic a slither favourite, and it's been priced the other way. So I'm more than happy to play Mensur odds against. I think it's a value selection. Not everyone's cup of tea, Mensur, of course. Not the most aesthetically pleasing. But what you can't deny is he does have a serious pedigree. Of course, he's a TV finalist, TV winner, quite a while ago now, but I mean, he has got a pedigree, and when he's playing well, he's a man to be taken seriously. So I think he's value at odds against to beat Simon Whitlock there. Just carrying on chronologically through these games, Dirk van Dijvenbode is an 8-15 best price to beat Martin Schindler. No interest in that one for me. Could see Martin Schindler maybe having some suitors at 9-5, but I think you've got to be brave to take on Dirk van Dijvenbode, really. I've got no interest in doing so. Joe Cullen, a skinny favourite, as you would expect to beat Richie Edhouse. Again, I don't really want anything of 2s on over the short format, but I expect him to get the job done. Chizzy and Van Barenveld is a game that I am interested in because Raymond has shown some really impressive form to get here. Had a couple of really good performances at the Players' Championships, beaten by the aforementioned Wattimena in a last 16 tie at Players' Championship 30. That, to be honest, Barney was looking like he could go on and do what he did earlier in the year and maybe win that Players' Championship. It really was a Van Barenveld that we haven't seen for a couple of months now. But yeah, impressed as I am by that, I just think that Chizzy is playing really, really well here under the radar, and he'll know that he has to be at his best here to beat Barney. This price is not as attractive as it was earlier in the week. You were getting close to 7-4 about Chizzy on a -2.5 handicap. That's trimmed in all the way to 13-10 now. I could still see Chizzy covering this handicap. There'll be Barney fans who hope I'm wrong, but everything I've seen off Chizzy in the last 3 months tells me that he should make fairly light work of Van Barenveld, and I'm taking a chance that Barney won't be able to, continue this hot streak. That is what we generally see with players as they get into the later realms of their career. A Gary Anderson, a Raymond Van Barenveld, they can still produce the odd performance, and they do it consistently. I don't have much faith in Barney. I think Barney qualified for this last year and then flopped. Will he do so again? I don't know, but it's more a thumb up for Dave Chisnall's recent form. I'm semi-interested in Chizzy in the outright market, although I did make a promise to myself that I would never back Chizzy to win a tournament outright again, and I haven't done yet. So Chizzy to make light work of Barney might be of interest at odds against. Then we've got Rob Cross, Adam Gaulas. Wouldn't really be interested in playing this. I do think Gaulas is a big price over 5 legs. Cross deserves to be a strong favourite, obviously. Form, Gaulas inconsistent at best. I mean, he does chuck in 80 averages every now and then, but he's got undoubted talent. And, when we have seen him on TV before, he's played up to his level, I would say. So, 10-3 in a best of 5 might be of interest. I'm happy to skip over it. Christian Perez, myself and yourself, Adam, have had a little play on him. It's a little bit of a stab in the dark.
It's a lot of a stab in the dark.
It was an obscene price to get out of his group. To finish second out of 4, 50-1. Potentially boosted to 60-1. That price doesn't exist anymore. I think me and you have chopped that very saturated market up. But yeah, I mean, I'll be fully behind Christian Perez here. Would I recommend anyone to back him to beat Danny Noppert? Absolutely not.
I think the problem he's got, Pi, is that he's drawn Noppert first round.
Yeah,
You
want him to get that 2 points on the board, don't you? And he could be looking at a heavy defeat actually. But look, it's a little bit of an unknown quantity. We know that he can average in the mid-90s. He's shown that at the Asian Championship to get here. If he can replicate that over 9 legs, he'll have a chance. And that's all you can ask for. It was purely a price play, wasn't it? Talking of price, Gerwen Price next up against Ted Everts. And I noticed that I was very encouraged to see on the section of Odds Checker with the darts popular bets that Alan Soutar and Jermaine Wattimena both featured in the popular bets section. So it shows that we're doing something right, or some shrewdies agree with us. And also in that section was Ted Everts to qualify out of Group A. Now, that might not be the most obvious ploy, but if you look at some of Ted Everts' underlying stats across the last 3 months or so, he is finally starting to show a little bit of the form that made him a World Youth Champion. And you think about previous World Youth Champions, Dimitri Vandenberg, Josh Rock potentially going to be a World Youth Champion. You have to beat a high caliber of player to become a World Youth Champion. There's no easy ride in the World Youth system. Ted Everts probably most synonymous at the moment for losing to Fallon Sherrock at the World Championship. And that's something that he'll be desperate to it's a wrong that he'd be desperate to right. He's still in his 20s, so he's a darting baby, really, in the grand scheme. And I could see why people think that he is kind of due a coming-of-age performance. For me, I wouldn't be taking on Gerwen Price. But look, there is an argument for saying that 5-1 for a world youth champion in a first to five. Gerwen Price is a slow starter in tournaments. He definitely is. It would not be the biggest shock in the world if he threw in a rogue performance here and got beat. And I would, I'd be tempted to say that if he did get beat, he'd still get through very comfortably. He'd probably win his next two games easily. He'd give him a jolt in the arm, which he does sometimes need, Gezi, but not for me. I can see the interest here. The last game of the afternoon I will be playing, and I'm really sorry to Lisa Ashton. I don't quite share Adam's bashing of Lisa sometimes. I mean, I've seen there's a bit of money around for Lisa, trimmed in from sort of 10s into 7s-ish. I'm going to go against the trends of the market. I think personally there is such a disparity between these two players. I do not believe Michael Smith to win this game 5-0 should be over 4-1. I think there's a very good chance that Michael Smith turns up and just goes out in 15 or less, 5 legs and just makes a light work of it. Yeah, add in Lisa's tournament record here, which you referenced in the first video, 0 from 12. And there's every reason to think that it's worth taking her on. As I say, 5-0 is priced up at over 4-1. I do have this ploy in tournaments, especially in the World Championships. You'll remember this from previews of years gone by, where I try to pick out who I think are particularly weak links in the first round. I'll take them on to lose to 0. And you could tricksy and pattern it up and stuff. And it's quite easy to rack up a couple of whitewashes when there is a big disparity between players. Now, obviously, the danger is that you play this first leg, Lisa holds in 12, and you're down. Fine, but at 17-4, I'm more than willing to take that chance. So that would actually be my best bet of the afternoon. Michael Smith to whitewash Lisa Ashton at 17-4. I think if things go to plan, we should have a very good run for our money there at a juicy price. Then we move on to the evening session. Ross Smith, Luke Woodhouse is priced correctly for my money. 4-9 players, 2-1. Luke Woodhouse, a good scorer. I keep saying this about him. Sorry, Luke. Got a little bit to prove on his doubling on the television, but a capable player on his day. Ross Smith, reigning European champion. Fair enough. 2's on. No complaints. Josh Rock's number one fan here is going to tell you that he's got a bit too skinny against Ryan Searle. I was really surprised to see Searle out at 11-8 and Rock at around 4-6.
Oh, he's also favourite to win that group, Pieman, against proven tournament winners like Luke Humphries.
It's so, some people don't understand this, and a lot of people won't understand this. In the same way that I bashed the drum about Josh Rock being too big for most of the year, he's now getting a bit too skinny for my liking. And if you're talking about natural ability, I genuinely, as people, regular viewers will know, I genuinely think this lad is up with Michael van Gerwen, Gerwen Price for natural ability. For TV experience, it is none. It is next to none. As good as he was against Nathan Aspinall, Michael Smith turned up and found a way past him. And we are talking about seasoned professionals who have played hundreds and hundreds of TV games in this group. And to me, while Josh Rock may have more natural ability than Scott Williams, he's in a similar period of his career where he's still accumulating this TV experience. And while he has got the talent to beat any of these players, should he be a long favourite to do so? I'm not so sure. Ryan Searle is getting out to a backable price here for me. There's a bit of 11-8 around. If the trends continue, it just feels like everyone wants to be with Josh Rock, which I do understand. But if you take your punting semi-seriously, there's a line where you can't be with someone, however much you fancy them. Would you back him at 1-5? No. So there obviously is a place where you have to go, that's too short. He's getting there for me. He's getting there for me. I'd love to see him blow Ryan Searle to pieces 5-0 and average 120. I'm on him for the world. I'd be rubbing my hands, but it's getting too short now. And I think
are you backing Searle then?
I probably will. Yeah, I probably will. Yeah, I think if you keep, but you've got to go at these with the attitude of, if the price is wrong, I'll back it, and if I keep doing that, and my judgment is good enough, I'll be ahead. And it served me well this year. So, yes, I will very reluctantly back Ryan Searle at 11-8 to win a best of 5 against someone who's had 2 games on terrestrial television, and I love Josh Rock. No offense to Josh Rock, but,
I mean, from a bookmaking perspective, Rock is sure in the outrights, in all markets, to win the group, to win this match, because basically no one will back against him. In the general public, so they want to keep him short enough just to avoid the liabilities. I'm on record saying Ryan Searle's been disappointing this year. I'm one of his biggest fans. Was last year and before that. This might be an opportunity for him to get a big win.
Yeah.
And in this group format, he's going to get 3 games. I think he needs all 3 of them. And hopefully he plays well. I do like Ryan Searle. I really do like him. He's dangerous on tops, and when he gets going on them 180s on that lipstick, he's deadly.
Yeah, and I think if these two play on the Pro Tour 10 times, Rock probably does win more than half of them. But I don't know if they play on the Grand Slam of Darts stage 10 times, whether he does, because I have no evidence to suggest he does at the moment. So, my head is telling me Searle's a safe pick at 11-8, value-wise. What a lot of, if people don't understand that concept, they'll say Rock wins, and they'll say, oh yeah, you put up Searle. But that's not the point. You either get it or you don't you? So anyway, moving on to the next game, I think there's a value bet in here. Damon Heta versus Jermaine Wattimena. Now, you already know we're keen on Jermaine. No disrespect to Damo. I really hope Damo goes and wins this tournament, to be honest. I think that'd be brilliant. But the value bet for me here is the 180s line, these two. Over 3 180s in the match. There's 2 reasons why I fancy this. This is my best bet on the evening session. 2 reasons why I fancy this at even money. One, I think the prices suggest that Heta will win this 5-1 or 5-2. I actually think it'll more likely be 5-3 or 5-4 either way. I think this is a tight contest given Wattimena's form. The other reason is, for all of Wattimena's weakness at the back end of legs, erratic is a word that we frequently use for him, he's a very, very solid scorer. And he's a solid scorer at the best of times, to be honest. But when he's in form, he's one of these players that, because he's so rhythmical and so quick, that first dart goes in, it's bang, bang, bang. That's why they call him the machine gun, because he will follow that first dart if he's playing well. And he is playing well. I can assure people he's playing well. So, the beauty of it is, with that line at over 3, I feel like Wattimena could easily turn up and hit 4 180s in this match on his own. Yeah. And I also feel like Damon Heta can turn up and hit 4 180s on his match. So the beauty of this bet is, even if one of the players doesn't turn up, I still feel like I'm in the game. I feel like that even money is more than fair. So if you were looking for a multi on the night, I would chuck that in there. I think that's a really, really solid pick. I'm going to have a go on it as a single. I do think that's rock solid. I think both players could cover that. And if there's any alternate lines, because I know on the night, some suppliers don't like to name check, but for anyone that is interested, like a 365, for example, they might do an alternative 180s line,
4.5,
5.5, and you could just do smaller stakes on them. So you could have your £5 on the evens, £3 on the 150 on the biggest line, and then just sit back and enjoy it. And Heta's very capable of going silly on the 180s. And just for all the reasons outlined, I think that is a fun value selection.
I like it.
Yeah. Aspinall Soutar, we're already on with Soutar, but I think 11-5 in the match betting's too big. I'll probably back Alan Soutar.
I 100% agree, Pieman.
I know you do as well. Yeah, so I'll let you maybe chat about that a little bit.
Yeah, so some of these, it sounds a bit mad that, like, we're on Wattimena to win the group at 8-9-1, but I'm not in no rush to back him to win his first game at 5-2, if you see what I mean. I think he can still qualify at the 9-4 without backing him for that first game, for example. But I do think that Alan Soutar is the only bet I would have first round is 11-5 to beat Aspinall, because I think that is a pivotal game, not only for him to win, but to qualify. I think if Soutar doesn't win that game, I think he's up against it, quite frankly, because I think both Aspinall and Peter Wright will beat Fallon Sherrock. So Soutar, really, for me, if he needs to win that first game against Aspinall, I think he can. And if he does, you'd get a double cop, really, because you'd get the match bet up at 11-5, and you'd be definitely be in the driving seat for him to qualify or possibly win the group. And like we've already said, he's 2-1 to qualify. So yeah, I'll be back in Soutar there.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And the other thing with Nathan Aspinall, as good as he's playing at the moment, we saw him in the European Championship against Josh Rock in the first round when he lost, and he made a slow start to that game. So he can be caught cold. Sometimes Aspinall, we saw it against Van Gerwen in the final as well. When he gave himself that massive gap to chase up, and then he gets going. He is a player that is susceptible to be caught cold, a bit like Gerwin Price. Sometimes it doesn't quite happen for him. He's a player that you see at his best over a long battle. That's why we always talk about him for the Worlds, as someone who's going to hang in there and, play his way into the game. Hard man to beat over a long format. Always worth having a look at taking him on over the short format. And Soutar, fantastic form, as you touched on, multiple ton plus averages across the two Players Championship days. Had to come through the qualifiers. So him, Wattimena, these players are in red hot form. 11-5. Really, really fair price, I think. Luke Humphries, Scott Williams. We've already touched on Scott Williams. A 16-1 rag in this group is disrespectful, and 5-1 to get through, I think personally is the best to qualify bet of the lot. Not saying he will get through, but I think he should be closer to 5-2 rather than 5-1 to actually qualify. So very fair. This Luke Humphries game, Josh Rock technically is the favourite in the market to win this group, but I think most people would be of the opinion that Luke Humphries is the likeliest winner of the group. There's not a lot in it in the group betting, so whether you want to be going and steaming into Luke Humphries, I think it's a volatile group. I'd rather just be with the outsider in Williams, to be honest. But if you ask me right now who I think is going to win the group, I'd say Luke Humphries. So I'm not necessarily needing Williams from a Williams backer perspective. I'm not needing him to go and win here, but I think he could run it close. I wouldn't be surprised if he would at 5-2, but I'm not going to play him at 5-2. I'm just going to sit back and cheer him, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Peter Wright, Fallon, Sherrock. Now Michael Smith and Lisa Ashton. As I said, there's a bit of money for Lisa Ashton. There's not money for Fallon Sherrock. And that is also because of Fallon's form. She hasn't been in the form that she was a year ago in this tournament when she beat Gabrielle Clemens, and she got through the groups into the knockouts and actually played well in the knockouts. But she's in a very different place to where she was. Now, again, I don't want this to feel like I'm just going against the female players because...
Oh, I am.
Yeah, I think we have to look historically at this tournament, and although Fallon had a good record there, I made the point earlier about Lisa having a dreadful record here. I think because Fallon comes into this in bad form, having lost her world's place, she's well within her rights to be a bit all over the place at the moment. The 10-3 about the 5-0 again. I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to see these girls get steamrolled 5-0, but you're asking me if a 10-3 and a 17-4 double appeals. It does, it does.
And it's the worst game of the three she's got first.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
In Fallon's point of view, it's the worst game of the three she's got first, because she's going to be on the back foot then. Against in the next games against Aspinall and Soutar, she'll be on the back foot.
Yeah, and I've just banged it in there into Odds Checker, and the 2 5-0s actually make for a 19-1 double best price. I mean, there's worse £1 you could chuck at for an interest, because this is Peter Wright and Michael Smith we're talking about here. I'm not just going against them because they're female players. I'm going against them because they're playing two of the best 4 or 5 players in the world.
Just taking those two in isolation, Pieman, I would much rather be on Michael Smith 5-0 over 4-1 than Fallon Sherrock 5-0 at 100-30.
Well.
I would much rather. I think Fallon. You're right. I would back that, but I'd watch the game more nervously than I watched Smith against Ashton.
As I say,
I think she paid Peter Wright in this tournament last year and played really well, I think.
As I say, she did. As I say, the Smith Ashton is my best selection of the card on Saturday. I just think that's far too big. But Yeah, I mean, the Fallon, I only put the point up because if you take in isolation, forgetting about the Ashton price and the other prices, given the context that Fallon comes into this game with, all the bad stuff that's gone on, lost her World Championship spot, she's in a bad spot. And it wouldn't be a great surprise if Peter Wright just put her to the sword, would it? But you're right. She's got the X factor to turn up and take a couple of legs, maybe even run it close. I wouldn't do it with lots of confidence. I just think it's quite a juicy price.
Just on that Group E, before we move on, Pieman, that's Wright, Aspinall, Soutar, and Sherrock. This is going to sound ridiculous coming out of my mouth, but Peter Wright's 4-6 to win that group. I just think he wins all 3 games. And at 60%, 4-6. Would you expect Peter Wright to win that game, to win that group, more than 2 out of 3 times? I would.
Yeah. And
at 60%, he's just over that. Maybe 2 in every 3.25 times. Yeah, I just think. But am I going to be tipping Peter Wright at 4-6? Absolutely not. But I'm just wanted to flag it. I think he'll win that group.
Yeah, you probably should be a little bit shorter. Looks like a 1-game shootout, doesn't it? Really, with Peter Wright. But yeah, at the realms of 4-6, it's not a working man's price, is it? I mean, you're probably looking at. I would imagine our viewers are looking to double that up or treble that up for a bit of fun and a bit of interest. And yeah, I wouldn't put you off that. I think we're giving enough selections here for you to have a mix and a match here. Just to show that I'm not being unfair to the female players, and also because I think it's too big. MVG is 15-2 to whitewash Nathan Rafferty. Nathan, by all means, a talented player, but he hasn't always shown it on TV. And by the same sense, Michael van Gerwen, I talk about some of these players being slow starters in tournaments. Michael van Gerwen, sometimes when it's a major, he just clicks in. And there is, I am willing to risk a few shillings at 15-2 that MVG just turns up and 10 minutes it's done. I like Nathan Rafferty, so it's nothing against Nathan Rafferty as such, but I just have a little bit of a theory around MVG. Sometimes when it clicks into this back end of the year, he likes to make statement performances. He likes to remind everyone that he is the best. And at 15-2, it's worth a chance. If you were, your 5-1, 5-2s are both around the 7-2, 4-1 mark. So if you think it's going to be a little bit more competitive, you could play it in that angle. I would just take a small stake at 15-2. That will be a play for me. And nothing in the last game between Johnny Clayton and Leonard Gates, because I think Johnny Clayton is levels above Leonard Gates, but I don't think his form merits getting involved in any scorelines or anything. Plus, Leonard Gates, likable character, so I hope Leonard can get a couple of legs at least.
There's plenty of bets there, Pieman. All will be in the description as always. That leaves me with 2 questions. Firstly, any specials?
Yes, one special on the Saturday. My good friends at Sport Nation. I've got plenty bags of specials markets priced up. Big shout to Sport Nation. Not sure if many have trialed their darts markets, but they do give you plenty of specials markets, and as far as I can see, independently priced as well. So credit to them. There was one. I talk about the Wattimena Heta game being a potential 180 fest. That is 13-2 to have the most 180s on the evening session. So I think if you're playing that 180s market, you might as well play that as well for a small interest. Just to give a bit of context there, Luke Humphrey, Scott Williams is a 5-2 favourite in that market, followed by Searle versus Rock, Smith, Woodhouse. And then Heta Wattimena is in there as 4th favourite at 13-2. So I'm more than happy to play that, because if it does turn into the 180 fest, I think it could. And that's a really nice price for a little special. But I've definitely have a check out of their specials. They'll be putting them up every day as well. So if you have a particularly strong opinion on one match, go and have a look at their session markets, because you're going against the 7 other games there, which is obviously harder to land your winner, but there's additional value there if you really do fancy something quite strongly to occur. You can even back like individual players for the most 180s. I'm looking at Leonard Gates there at 50-1, not a chance.
Move on.
Yeah, exactly. That would be the only special for me. So I'm guessing your next question is going to be about outrights.
Yeah, that is going to be the question. I've not got any bet in the outright, Pieman. I just think that everyone's priced about right. There's that many players. I know we say this all the time. There's that many players that could go on and win. But I will be playing the outright, but I'm going to watch the groups. Maybe watch the first couple of rounds of fixtures and see how it goes from there. There's a couple I've got my eye on. I think the bottom half of the draw, I think the winner will come from the bottom half of the draw. If you put a gun to my head, I would do pretty much the unthinkable and put up Peter Wright, but I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on it. And yeah, you can call it sitting on the fence if you want. But if I'm not betting in the market, I'm not going to be telling you viewers to be betting in the market. So in the outright pie, man, where's the money going?
To be honest, the price has gone now that appealed to me. I think I did see an 18 at one point. I'm just checking. I haven't made this up. I may have made it up actually. I thought I saw an 18 or a 16 for Johnny Clayton the other day. There's 114 left.
There is.
The only and that's very much a case what I've talked about retrospectively, where the way I look at these markets, you know, a lot of people who watch regularly will know I tend to look in that sort of 20 to 33 region for a player that I think's got good win equity, but you know maybe hasn't, you know, because of the people at the top of the market, their price is a little bit bigger. You're absolutely spot on in what you say. For once, the pricing of that mid-range of the market just looks perfect to me. You know, Josh Rock's short enough for me not to be tempted. I would enjoy watching him win at 20s. I don't need to be on at 20s to enjoy that. You know, Heta back out to 25s is probably reflective of his TV record until he goes and kicks on and does it. Chizzy, I keep looking at Chizzy and then I think, come on, 20 to 1 Chizzy, behave yourself. I might still lose my head there and, you know, be suckered in. Then I end up looking at the bottom end of the market. Is there an absolute bomb that I can get behind? I looked at Mensur at 150, Scott Williams at 250. Then I thought, no, this has been silly. They're not going to go on and actually win the tournament, you know.
Correct.
So it leads me back up to the top of the market. And you're right. I quite like the bottom half of the draw. I think Josh Rock has probably been a little bit overbet now in that bottom half of the draw. So that leads you to MVG, Wright and Clayton. And I just thought, well, MVG 4s, Wright 7s, Clayton 14s. It's about right on the form. But I'd take being on Johnny Clayton at 14. Suddenly, if he gets into the semi-finals, you're quite fancying your chances, aren't you, really? So he's probably, if you put a gun to my head now and said, well, where do you want your money and feel like you're getting the best bang for your buck, I think 14 on Clayton is probably about right. Michael Smith at 14 as well, you know, on recent form. You couldn't put people off Michael Smith, but it's just whether he can go and win, isn't it? I'll do exactly what you do. And one final piece of advice I would like to give people. This is my favourite part of the Grand Slam, actually. I will back people to win the tournament after they lose their first group game. Which will probably sound really counterintuitive to most people, but what you'll get is you'll get an overreaction in the outright market. So many players every year lose their first game and go through, and like it's like a World Cup in football, really. The group stage goes on for ages, but really it only matters if you finish first or second. No one gives a shit about whether you won your first game, what your leg difference was. We get all caught up in the group stage. But, you know, effectively after 3 nights of group stage, it's just a normal tournament. And as long as your man's still there, that's all that matters. So if I see a player lose their first game, maybe surprisingly, but I still think they can win their next 2 games, go back them in the outrights. You'll get double the price that they are now, but they'll still probably get through. So that's the way to play the Grand Slam outright market. Play it in running. I'm sure we'll have some videos up through the week. Certainly bits up on Twitter or clips or whatever. I'll try and get some videos up regardless. And yeah, and if we're playing anybody in running, I'll be sure to flag it and hopefully we can benefit in that regard.
Yep, sure. All sorts of bets put up there by Pieman. All will be in the description as usual. And while we're at it, Pieman, last week over in America at the Breeders' Cup, put 4 selections up
on fire.
Won.
Yeah, you were on fire.
So you know, a 9-1 winner for on the first night, and a winner on the nap on the Saturday. One of the biggest bet singles I've had this year. I know we only do 1 point win, but modern games, 9-4 winner. So yeah, that'll do. Lovely.
Big pat on the back there. You were superb on that. Yeah, if anyone, I know generally with our channel we get the views on the racing, and we're trying to tell them we also do darts. But if there is any darts fans here that don't know a lot about racing, check out Adam's videos. He does put up some good winners, and if not, the winners, then you certainly get the insight and the justification, and you get a little bit of context to hopefully go and enjoy the racing as well. So definitely recommend any of our darts viewers to go check out them racing videos as well.
Thank you very much. We'll be back soon with more content. Thanks for tuning in. That's the Grand Slam of Darts betting preview from Doubles and Trebles. Cheers.